Welcome back to Newsday. Now, the Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room says that election management body INEC should tender an unreserved apology to every Nigerian for inflicting on them the most insincere and fraudulent set of elections in the history of the nation. Speaking during the presentation of the final report on the elections, convener of the group NLB maintained that the entire process was marred by irregularities, especially as it concerned the technological input.
The staff, everybody was committed, but the result, what we saw, is what we have declared. We're quite disappointed with what came out because we think we had the capacity to have done better. And we are still asking the INEC chairman to apologize to Nigerians because of the electoral issues.
That was NLB, convener of Nigeria's Civil Society Situation Room. Well, joining us now to discuss that report by the Election Monitoring Group, which claims that the public confidence in INEC has dropped to 40% after the 2023 general elections, and how the Commission can go about restoring their lost confidence, is Rise analyst Dayo Sobowale. I want to say thank you very much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. Yeah.
NLB has actually put INEC and the chairman in the eye of the storm once again by insisting that they should apologize to Nigerians. But as it stands right now, away from what NA has even said, the public perception about INEC is at an all-time low. And what do you think INEC should do to ensure that they restore this confidence? Because certainly there will be off-season elections and there will be general elections in the future.
Anyway, if you talk of post-mortem analysis of how they perform, I'm for that. But it's highly uncivil of the civil society organizations to be commenting on the case in court. Okay. It is prejudicial. Although I would like to take on some of the things they said. What they said at that conference was very apparent, but they should have been objective without passing judgment. Calling it fraudulent and all that when the cases are still in court is impolite and not civil. You see, the elections have come and gone, but the process is still on in the courts. These civil society people made good recommendations. You get me? At this same press conference. They said we should not be using PVC since it does not carry personal information. That we can use identity cards, we can use passports, and to save cost. They went on to say that instead of doing registration and involving INEC in the registration, that you see we can have reliable data from the census board on our population. You get me? And use that. But then, of course, there is a problem with census in Nigeria. If the figures are correct, we concentrate on the data, and people go to vote. Those are credible, positive recommendations. You get me? But I will not comment on INEC's case in court. But I will comment on what I've seen in retrospect on how INEC really performed. You cast a retrospect on that election, especially with the announcement of the results. It was like they were doing a gala show. My own analogy would be a very simple thing. If you watch football managers, they tell you that until they have the results, they don't know who is the underdog or that they play the next match as it comes. Even as individuals, if you go for an examination, you will be damn serious about it, hoping that if you do your best that day, you get a good result. But INEC did not do that. INEC, at the announcement of the results, it was like a pageantry, as if that would be the end of the matter. But he knew that the process will not end there. To me, that's complacency and arrogance. Get me? You do not declare victory until you have gotten the results. They did literally that. Now they are washing their dirty linen in the public, in the court. As if they are the master, they behave as if they are the Supreme Court of the electoral process. Whereas they are even at the tribunal now. from the tribunal, they may end up at the Supreme Court. So there was complacency on the part of INEC. But saying the entire thing was fraudulent and all that, I would not use such harsh words.
I asked.
Yes.
From the public perception.
Yes.
How do you think, you've answered that, but more importantly, yes, that's what I'm saying, you've answered that. How does INEC begin resensitization and also restoring people's confidence in the electoral process?
Said the recommendation of these people too.
Indeed, you
voter,
have.
Voter registration, using the census, cutting costs, using identity card, you don't duplicate costs. Yes. There are positive things coming from these civil service organizations. They should be listened to. But I will not comment on the case in court.
Well said.
And call it as fraudulent when the judges have not given a decision.
Mr.
That's jumping the gun.
I definitely hear you.
Yes.
And since you're thrilled with the recommendations,
yes.
do you think the starting point, as mentioned here by NLB, she says authorities should appoint state directors of elections to replace the commissioners? Do you deem this a sufficient...
President Electoral Commissioner.
Yes.
What's the difference? Between state director and president electoral.
That's what I'm asking you. Is that a good starting point for
I think what they are trying to say is that if the resident electoral commissioners have stayed too much on the location, they are likely to be compromised. That means, so instead you have state. But I would prefer a situation whereby on the eve of the election, even if you have state directors, you know the way police moves around, their commissioners of police? Yes. So that you just take on from there. What you need for an election, monitoring and management, is objectivity, impartiality. That was lacking. You get me? And INEC was doing as if it has performed and is about to receive a prize. Whereas it has not breasted the tape even in the sprint, not to talk of a marathon. And it is already celebrated. We must do something about that. That complacency was apparent. You could see those who were protesting on the floor of the collation something. They were saying what they were saying and they were being dismissed. Left, right, and center. See how many votes were cancelled in that election? You get me? And how many people voted? 25% of the electorate. You get me? So you talk of a mandate, yes, you can put a question mark. But the process has come electorally at the polling booths, it is gone. The next process in the courts. I cannot be passing judgment on what people are presenting in court.
But Mr. Sobowale,
it's uncivil.
I'm wondering, should we be, and please don't shoot me. I'm wondering, should the focus be on restoration?
Of what?
I know you don't necessarily want to comment on the approach by the CSO here. You talked about INEC being complacent.
Yes.
But should that be the focus, or should we be talking about potential alternatives to INEC?
Like a new electoral body? You invent one. No. You see, INEC need to be up and doing. That's what I'm giving the analogy of football. Performance. You get me? Don't get... You see, you prepare for an examination. You get me now? You know what it takes. Any task or assignment, make preparations so that you do your best. Because you know that we are not it, that we are a result, and that's accountability. But INEC did as if it is not going to be held accountable. That and he said it will use a process. It failed to use that process. That machine refused to deliver. That's not performance. That's poor quality service delivery. It should be taken to task on that. And this same civil society, they have made positive contribution in terms of the data they use, in terms of registration, voter participation, and those are things we should take into consideration.
All right, okay, so now looking at it, because we've spoken about the entire process right now.
Yes.
Of course, we know most of it is still in court and in the tribunal as we speak. But looking at it, because we've changed electoral laws, we've amended them.
Electoral, yes.
We've upgraded them.
Yes.
In the bid to probably have a near-perfect system. Yes, to have a near-perfect system. But we find out time and time again that the human factor always lets us down in the entire electoral process.
Because you are correct.
Yes.
You get me? And I will add
so how do we mitigate against that? Because Nigeria seems to treat electoral processes like rocket science. That we cannot get a good electoral process.
Civil service people, civil
society.
So yes, they made recommendation that the National Assembly should be more up and doing in confirming people to positions in INEC. Do you get me? It is in their recommendation there that they should vet people more. And I will add to that the case we have in Adamawa, that lawyer. I said it here that maybe lawyers should not be given that sort of position. That's one. And then again, the issue of complacency. When Dr. Okoye, this INEC Executive Director of Information, he was even chiding them, the civil society, he was chiding them that they did not look at their positives. They were only looking ahead. That's part of the complacency. If you do something, you do an assessment of your performance, even without being prodded by an outsider. If they had done their analysis, strategic analysis of their plan and how they executed it, they will have seen their strengths, they seen their weaknesses, and they will have known that they needed to apologize for some things without being prompted and tell us the excuse for not, especially for
apologizing would almost be indicting themselves as to have failed.
But that's what you're asking them to do. Is that not what they're asking them to do? And that's what you are saying to.
Yeah.
What do you want? You will kill them. If there is a shortcoming and people admit their shortcoming, they will promise to improve. That's what Okoye was trying to say. But I'm saying that he should have admitted the criticism in good faith. If you do a SWOT analysis, you know your strengths and weaknesses eternally, and the opportunities and threats. They should have known the threat they faced was inadequate preparation, logistics, technological, and like you said, the human factor.
Mr. Sobowale,
yes.
Of course you said, they call for an apology and they shouldn't kill them. I hear you on that. But again, come 2027, God willing, we'll be looking at another election and probably...
But not with this INEC, by the grace of God.
I know.
Yes.
But that gamble...
And these people have made some suggestions.
Yes.
Which should be put... I spoke here sometime that sources of our elections are census. And I'm happy they have mentioned census too. If you have reliable census figures, you don't have people going to queue and registering at election time. If the figures are there, you extract it. If they are true and honest, you extract it and use it. But like I said here too, census figures here are highly politicized because revenue allocation is linked to that. Allocation of seats in assembly are linked to that. So let's get good census figure, and these people have had the boldness to mention that. Why don't you accentuate that instead of talking about the case in court, which is sub judice?
Okay, we look at all this and say that what is the biggest lesson from the 2023 general elections?
The biggest lesson, like we have just said, is that we must have an INEC made up of committed people who have credibility on how they will manage the election and the process, the logistics, and all that. This present crop of people, when they are with a sense of achievement, they have not started the race, they are already receiving the prize. That's why I said complacency. You should have people who are committed, who are ready to work to achieve results.
Well said.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Arise News analyst Mr. Dayo Sobowale. It's always a pleasure